Welcome to episode 9 of Apparently, the podcast where we discuss everything pop culture, politics, and everything in between. So, hey, Ladan,
Hello, greetings from Toronto. It's
Toronto. So, why are you in Canada, by the way?
a good question. I have no idea. This is the strangest holiday I've ever been on, but it's been nice. It's like America with nice people.
Have you been to Brampton yet?
I have. I've been to Browntown. I've been everywhere.
Nice, nice. Okay, so got a little puzzle for you. I'm gonna start the episode with a puzzle. Or is it a conundrum? What is that? I don't know how to describe it.
Riddle.
A
Riddle me
riddle.
this.
Riddle me this. I am an African American liberal. I support Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton. I also served in the US Armed Forces in many Middle Eastern, Arab, Muslim countries. I believe that Arabs really don't like me because I'm black. Who am I? I'll tell you. I'm a fucking idiot.
Why
I'm an
do they
idiot.
hate me? Why do
Why
they
did
hate
you hit
me?
me? I went to
I have a gun in their face.
yeah, I was aiming a gun to the head of a 5-year-old Afghan boy, and I just wanted to know why he wasn't, leaning in. And
Was he resisting in an anti-black fashion?
yeah, I feel like it just wasn't intersectional enough for my liking. Yeah, it was
Didn't
lacking some.
didn't give enough deference to the African American experience.
Yeah, they were really horrible to my African American liberal colleague as well, who was also in the army with me. I feel like the Afghans that we were dealing with, they were exhibiting some misogynoir. And that really, that's one of the reasons why I can't support Palestinians because they're just so anti-black.
They didn't find those drones to be intersectional enough as they were intersectioning over their wedding party.
Not just like into I felt like the drones, they didn't think the drones were. I don't even know anymore. I really don't give a shit. Even talking like that makes me nauseous. So let's
Yeah.
get this episode going and on the road. So, what the fuck has been happening on social media lately? I noticed that there's been quite a shift, quite a big shift. I mean, to be fair, we always said Palestine is not about race, it's not about charity, it's not about this, it's literally about ending an occupation, ending uh,
Imperialism.
imperialism and
And not
Palestine.
just in Palestine, in any country, any place where the boot of imperialism is on the face of the innocent people. And that could be in the United States, from Ferguson to Gaza. Um, this could happen anywhere.
I mean, yeah, it's been quite. Uh, I've had a lot of whiplash looking at the TikTok videos this week. To be honest, I just felt like my hair had been yanked aside looking at some of these. Yeah.
Let's catch people up who aren't as hyper online as we are. So, what's
Yes.
been happening on social media this week? It started off actually on TikTok, where a couple of Palestinian American, I don't want to say activists, but people who speak on the G side that's going on now. G side is, by the way, the TikTok term for the genocide because we're scared to say it in case we get suppressed. But yeah, so a couple of pro-Palestinian speakers were speaking on the choices that Americans have to make in this election, and basically saying if you are to vote for Kamala Harris as the presidential candidate, then you're not doing that to free Palestine. What happened as a result? This is just a very broad summary. What happened as a result was quite a alarming backlash towards the Palestinian movement by a few loud and terrifyingly awful African American liberals that we were alluding to earlier, who were saying
liberals, we need to make that very clear. Liberals, they are capital L liberals, emphasis on the L, like fucking losers. But the thing that where I started to take notice of it was there's a quite a prominent Palestinian American TikToker, and she's also on Twitter. I believe she also once confronted Hillary Clinton's daughter once to have a go at her, and it was very, very badass. This was years ago, but she basically rightly went on her TikTok and said, if you're gonna vote for Kamala Harris, take that Palestine or watermelon emoji out of your bio. And that's when I started to notice the shift. And yeah, it's just been a bit, there's been some resistance to it now, which is good. The first few days of seeing so many Coconut Hive, K Hive, Black American liberals saying some really I don't even know how to describe it, like things that you just think, how can a human being say that? Things like, oh well, fine. I saw one video of they call her a black elder, and someone said she's not a black elder, she's just an old idiot who happens to be black. But she must have said in the most smug way possible, oh, so you don't want us supporting Palestine? Fine, then. I'll just have to take my donation away from Gaza and then I'm going to give it to Congo. And I just realized it's a fucking game to some of these people. It's a
Yeah.
fucking game to some of these people. It is not rooted in any sense of liberating the oppressed. It really was just, I don't know, like a holding thing until they got Kamala to replace Joe Biden as a Democratic nominee, because it's all been happening ever since Kamala was labeled as brat by Charlie XCX. So that's everything started to go downhill.
This is quite an important moment in the movement, I think, because it kind of speaks on why we got involved. I think for me, I've always been interested in and in observing and speaking up for the plight of the Palestinians, but this genocide has obviously been quite a radicalizing moment for a lot of us. I don't think a lot of people who joined the movement as this genocide started to rage around 10 months ago were actually radicalized. I think this was just another football team to support and not really support it in a material or active manner. It was just, their activism was just putting the Palestine flag in their bio. It was just, making a few retweets or reposts on TikTok, but there wasn't any actual moral movement behind that. And that's why they were able to switch in such a inhumane manner. I saw someone saying, well, enjoy that genocide that you speak of. I'm going to vote for Kamala, which is a mad thing to say, especially in a week where we saw a attack on a school where a whole bunch of innocent people were killed, and there were no intact bodies. All the families of the dead were given a 40-pound bag of meat, which is not entirely sure that it was their loved ones, incomplete. It was literally just a bag of meat, and I can't. That sentence sounds just insane.
Yeah, just human beings, their limbs, and other parts of their body in plastic bags. I don't know what to say, but anyways, let's get back into the whole weaponization of identity politics. So
yeah,
I feel like there's a big sense of CIA psyop behavior going on. However, I wanted to put this question forward to you. Is that also considered anti-Black by saying that it's a CIA psyop? Because I kind of feel like, you know what, it takes the agency away from these particular African-American liberals, because it's almost implying that the CIA made them do it. And I think, no, they know exactly what they're saying. I feel like it's a mixture of both. There is a psyop element to it, but at the end of the day, these people are not AI. They are real people who are saying such horrendous, heartless, depraved things, and it's their choice. So I almost feel like it takes their agency away to make it seem like it's, I know, is it COINTELPRO or something like that program for the CIA?
Yeah.
about dividing.
Destabilizing solidarity movements from, the Black Panther movement in the 70s and the 60s onwards. No, I agree. I think people have made a choice. And I think the allegories that a lot of these Black liberals are using is very apt. They are saying quite often, we care about Palestine. Of course we care about Palestine, but just like in an airplane, we're told to put our face masks on first before placing them on children. And it's very interesting that they see Palestinians as children, as kind of charity cases without agency themselves.
Well, that's what I meant by the whole charity case of that woman, the African American elder, the lady, when she said, "Fine, I'll give my donation away to Congo instead." And I just thought, your donation isn't going to liberate Congo either, because both of those issues are structural issues that will
And they're
not be
interconnected.
interconnected, but they will not be alleviated with charity alone. So it just shows how small-minded and stupid she is. And yeah,
And completely moronic. I saw quite a few of these Black liberals saying, well, I'm just going to shift my attention to Haiti, and notoriously, Haiti is a country known in modern history for being absolutely destroyed by senior Democrats.
Hillary
Hillary
Clinton
Clinton.
and Bill Clinton.
Yeah, so saying that you are shifting your support from Palestine to Haiti because of your support for a Democratic candidate, moronic.
But
Absolutely.
also it shows the childish identity politics side of it, because it's saying, fine, then I'll pick a black country. And it's like, oh my God, first of all, there are Afro-Palestinians, but also it just shows you, I'm like, what were you doing for Haiti before someone offended you on Twitter, you fucking numpty, you stupid piece of shit. Like, I genuinely don't know what else to say to someone like that. And I do also feel like, by the way, a lot of people are tiptoeing around these social media users because they don't want to be labeled as anti-black, but I just want to let them know it's like, it is not. They are the same way it's not anti-Semitic to be anti-Zionist. I feel like I've seen some very, very, very questionable accusations of anti-blackness leveraged towards Palestinians over the past week or so, where I just think you are doing to the word anti-blackness exactly what they did to the word anti-Semite. And I just feel like Palestinians must feel so magical that they're exposing so much just by existing, because they have flipped the weaponization of anti-Semitism on its head, and they're going to end up their existence alone, the resistance to their existence alone. I don't think it will do that to the word anti-blackness, just because I do feel like anti-blackness is a lot more, real cases of
Oh
that
yeah, historically,
historically, and also in terms of reparations not being given, in terms of the fact that Black people's oppression, like the genuine oppression, has been so denied and
and
not seen
institutionalized
and
in.
institutionalized, but also just not taken seriously at all. So it just makes me more angry at them, though, the people who are using this, but they are a minority.
Yeah.
I cannot say that about the people who weaponize anti-Semitism, that they're not a minority. So I think it's good to make that very clear.
Yeah. This is very interesting. You see these Black liberals showing their support for Kamala, and the question that I have for them is, we'll get into it when we talk about Kamala's refusal to engage with the media. But you'd think that this is in support of a radical candidate who has an amazing platform to truly liberate Black people, when really she's a cop. And when you talk about the anti-Blackness of the pro-Palestine movement, and a lot of them are coming out with these really poorly researched claims about slavery in the Arab world. First of all, when we talk about slavery in the Arab world, we're looking more at certain parts of North Africa, which aren't entirely Arab. A lot of them are Amazigh indigenous people there, and some parts of the Gulf. Not so much the Levant, where Palestine is. And if we're going to talk about slavery, let's talk about slavery in the US, where you've got the 13th Amendment to the Constitution, which abolished slavery in the sense that we mostly know the US slavery, but doesn't make an exception for prison slavery, which is where you see a lot of African Americans unjustly imprisoned and enslaved for all intents and purposes. Where is a conversation amongst Black liberals about that anti-Blackness, which
Well, Kamala tried and was, I think she was forced to stop doing this, but keeping Black men in prison longer than their actual sentences in order to keep them enslaved in the prisons. Also punishing a lot of minority parents by imprisoning people for their kids being truant at school, bunking off school. So
let's talk about that anti-Blackness.
but they were talking about that anti-Blackness beforehand. I don't know what's changed. Kamala was always seen as a cop, especially when it comes to social media. I saw both Black lefties and liberals alike knowing that Kamala was useless, even though I absolutely despise Tulsi Gabbard. She's absolutely evil when it comes to Muslims and when it comes to her support for Modi in India and the BJP. When there was the Democratic presidential primaries, I believe in 2020, Tulsi Gabbard read Kamala for filth. She knocked her down by so many pegs.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's one of the reasons why Kamala just is not going to be put forward for many interviews, because she is incompetent. She's incompetent. She was also in charge. She was hired as the border czar, in charge of the borders in America. And even though I am very pro migration, we are both refugees. Kamala has completely made a tit out of herself when it comes to that job, to a point where it's I don't think it makes you right wing to know that it's only gotten worse when it comes to the border, the southern border. So yeah, Kamala's just been very.
I mean, there's a reason why she, as we would say in the UK, got into the candidacy through clearing.
Yeah, she was parachuted in.
Yeah, she was parachuting in. Not there wasn't really any competition. I don't think the Democrats could really afforded a open competition for the Democratic candidate.
They couldn't. The other guy would have been Gavin Newsom, and Gavin Newsom, is he the governor of California, I think?
Yeah.
There would be so many videos of the people on fentanyl and, like
the
looking
homeless crisis.
the crisis in California. That alone would have shut his campaign down, and Donald Trump would have won immediately. They probably would have called the election sooner just to bring him in.
So why do you think then that this shift has happened? Is it because TikTok is now the main source of news for a lot?
Is the main source of news for young people. And obviously more young people, I guess, will be more likely to vote for Kamala. I'll be honest with you, the memification of everything helps. And the fact that we kind of shot ourselves in the foot by laughing at all of those Kamala videos in the past where she said things that were quite funny. We're all guilty of that. So I feel like what they did was they turned lemons into lemonade with that. In addition to that, everyone remembers how interesting. We're not hearing any more about banning TikTok, are we? There was, how many congressional hearings, how many meetings. I remember Deborah Messing and Sacha Baron Cohen having a meeting with
these are like very
the CEO. They're very staunch Zionists, but also what I was saying is they were having meetings with the CEO of TikTok and screaming at him for the anti-Semitism that it was not there, but anything pro-Palestine, the fact that pro-Palestine videos were doing much better than anything pro-Israel. I just find that quite fascinating that we're not hearing so much about that anymore. We're not hearing about the dangers of TikTok and anti-Semitism anymore. I think it was Nikki Haley who said, if you watch TikTok, it will make your child 17% more likely to be anti-Semite. Like, she took those statistics out of her fucking hairy backside. But it's just like, you're not hearing that anymore, because didn't they make about like $40 million or 40 billion. I don't know. They made lots and lots of money from the first white women for Kamala Harris.
Zoom
Zoom
call.
Zoom calls, the ones with the actresses like Connie Britton from American Horror Story, people basically saying, white women, we're so fucking useless, we're terrible, we're just horrible human beings because we're white women. We need to gentle parent ourselves into this. I kid you not, that is what they were saying. They
I mean,
hired
where were the talks of anti-blackness then? Because that sounds very like almost mammification of Black women. Like, we see you as the wise.
Well, they did that with Stacey Abrams when it came to, was it Florida or somewhere?
Yeah.
The whole idea of Georgia, yeah. But the whole idea of Black women will save us. And I'm like, why do you see Black women as saviors? That is the magical Negro trope. I'm sorry, but that is absolutely puzzling to me that there are some Black people who like being spoken to like that. I'm not even joking. I don't know how you can find that flattering to have white women display such pathetic performances of self-flagellation just to basically get what they want ultimately. Because remember, I never ever hear Black women will save the day until it's election time.
Oh yeah,
I never hear Black women are the best of us, Black women will save the day when it's not election time. How many times has these idiots that went on the Zoom call for Kamala Harris, how many of them have spoken up about Sonia Massey, or Sandra Bland, or every other Black woman that's been brutalized by the police? And how many of these white women have spoken up for Black women? And we spoke about this on the podcast. How many of them have spoken up for Black women and young Black girls who have lost their jobs and have been threatened with violence for being pro-Palestine? They don't care about those Black women. What about Black women like Brianna Joy Gray, who lost her job for being pro-Palestine? It's just the specific type of Black woman is the only one that they like. And that is I don't even know,
someone who's gonna coddle them, tell them that it's gonna be okay, and is willing to take a back seat when it matters, and will take prominence when it matters to them. And it's very, let's say, transactional. I know they're saying that solidarity is transactional, but it is transactional. And unfortunately, Black liberals are not getting paid off more in this exchange.
They're going to realize in the next couple of years what they have gotten themselves into, or they won't. We don't know yet. Like, based on some of the tweets that I've seen, some of these dickheads have been so shameless and so cruel and narcissistic that maybe they will think, even if Kamala maintains the status quo or makes things exactly the same, they might think it's still great because there's a Black Indian woman in charge. And that representation politics, I was discussing this yesterday with someone. Thankfully, we don't have too much of that in the UK. And maybe it's for all the wrong reasons because of how we've been conditioned to never talk about race out loud in the UK or in Europe in general. But I'm really happy that, we don't see David Lammy, the Black Foreign Secretary, as a win for Black people. He's an absolute vile, disgusting scumbag. And
yeah. Honestly, I see the reason why we don't have so much of the identity politics, and this is going to sound really depressing. They don't need us here.
Yeah. I mean, that
They
is
don't need us. Like, we don't have there's no swing seats here that are decided by Black voters. I mean, there are some seats in the north of England that are decided by Asian voters. But then we really need to get into a coalition, really. Maybe we need to get back to the 1970s version of political blackness, because that's the only way we're really going to be able to
make a change. Because I'll be honest with you, didn't we look at the statistics after the general election in the UK, and we saw that actually it was mostly like, if you put BAME, Black and ethnic minorities, together, yes, we did abandon the Labour Party, but when they separated it through Asian and Black, lots of Black British people still stuck with the Labour Party. I'm pretty sure we saw that, didn't we?
Yeah. And it's similar to, I guess, the Black voters in the US, which is, we're governed by fear. fear that things could get worse. I think even the Black liberals recognize that the status quo is not great, but a lot of this is decided by, but it could be so much worse. And I understand it. I think in that episode that we did about Kamala Harris a few weeks ago, I said I would probably vote for Kamala Harris because I'm scared
What
of
about now? Can you give us an update? Would you vote for Kamala Harris now?
Can I be real?
It's a yes or no, darling.
Yeah, I would.
I'm so grossed out.
I'm not gonna advocate for
I
anyone.
just want to make it very clear for those of you who are listening to the podcast, it's Ladan who wants to vote for Kamala, not me.
I'm not. I didn't say I want to vote. I didn't say I want to vote for her. I recognize this, and I think it's a very human instinct. Fear that things could get so much worse. Having said that, I would never ever ever claim that this is a vote for Palestine. That this is that Donald Trump is going to be worse for Palestine. He's going to help eradicate the Palestinian state and any hopes of having a state. You know, he moved the embassy to Jerusalem. Blah blah blah. I recognize they are two cheeks of the same butt. But I just know that if I was an American, I'm gonna be selfishly voting for my interests.
Wow. I don't really know what to say back to that. For me, I've been seeing a lot of things through the lens of Gaza lately, where I'll be honest with you, even when I have like a migraine, suddenly I don't succumb to the pain as much as I used to because I think of what Palestinians are going through. And I think, imagine if I had a migraine over there.
Yeah.
Imagine if I had a toothache over there. So I'm saying this as someone, we've survived 14 years of conservative rule where they destroyed pretty much everything. And remember, we still chose to campaign against the Labour Party, Laden. So can you tell me why we chose to go against the Liberals in the UK, and yet you're saying that people should stick with the Liberals in the US? What makes you different to them? Why do you see where I'm coming from?
I totally see
it. Tell me what I just said, because I just want you to understand it for me.
Yeah, it does sound hypocritical that I would, campaign against a Labour Party, which is
the same arguments are with the Labour Party and the Democrats. They're the same.
Yeah. However, in the UK, we have a slightly different political system, whereby we knew weeks in advance that the Labour Party were going to win by a landslide. If I knew that there was a risk of a Conservative government continuing, best believe I would have been campaigning for the Labour Party.
I am astonished by that. I am so astonished by that.
I'll be real with you. I'm not.
But you can see now. See, hindsight's an interesting thing. But you can see right now that we do have the Labour Party in charge, and it's been nothing but continuation of misery. So again,
for us in the UK or for the Gazans?
For us in the UK. So again, even the whole idea of things will be better for things can only get better. No, it hasn't gotten better. Winter fuel allowance slash for millions of pensioners. The education secretary saying universities should go bust. I mean, come on, a continuation of the genocide in Gaza and full, consent for that. And race riots. So what on earth are you talking about?
I mean, listen, the race riots were 14 years in the making.
14 years in the making, but the Prime Minister of the country, Keir Starmer, has not described it as Islamophobic. He would have described it as anti-Semitic. That to me is enough for me that just boils my piss. I can't believe. Oh gosh, you must have I think you have a low self-esteem. You have a low self-esteem.
No, it is. I think I am governed by fear. I am, and I'm terrified that things could get worse. And I'm thinking about I don't want to sing the praises of the Labour Party, but I think at least with the Labour Party, we still do hold some influence over them in the union movement. Some of the biggest funders are some of the most funding comes from the unions. Things like the fact that we I don't want to sing the praise. Listen, you're making me praise Keir Starmer, but I was comforted by the fact that the doctors were given a pay rise, that there will be less strikes from junior doctors hopefully in the future.
I was fantastic. Again, it sounds so identical to yeah. Okay.
I was comforted by the fact that teachers are also going to get a pay rise. I'm disappointed that obviously teaching assistants won't, But do you see that this is somewhat slightly better than what we had before? I'm not saying it's best, but
All I
it's
can say is I'm happy for the doctors who campaign. A part of me does think that they would have gotten what they would have wanted with if they persevered.
you know how big the backlogs were,
I think it
and
was actually up until, to be fair, they've had, well, didn't they have the same pay until 2000, since 2008 or something.
literally, which is
Yeah,
essentially a pay cut of like 20% in a
yeah.
cost of living crisis. I was scared.
Fair enough, but I still feel
I
like
get your point. I get your
yeah.
point. I do sound like a hypocrite, and I am a hypocrite. I'm, I'm.
You have the same views as these like African American liberals. You're just not nasty about Palestinians. That's so you know, we're all learning together on this podcast on apparently. I did not know that my co-host Ladan was this shit.
And your sister.
And we've never revealed that we're sisters.
Oh yeah, actually, yeah.
Yeah, we have the same mom and the same dad. But we can talk about that another time. What else was I gonna talk about? I did see a tweet, a few tweets about this particular topic of the way some, you know, again, minority of African American liberals on social media have been, you know, acting a bit cray
Respect.
cray. So someone on Twitter, their tag is called Half Atlanta, and well, they wrote, I don't know their pronouns, sorry, and they wrote, these Black versus Palestinian debates, rifts, clashes do not take place in real life. Having attended hundreds and myself organized dozens of Black Palestinian solidarity events over the years, these convos are not representative of anything happening in actual organizing at all. So they also go on to say, these conversations are being led by people who do not organize, are in no organizations or collectives, whose activism doesn't extend beyond the keyboard, and who are so far detached from real life movement, they think a vote and a TikTok video are the solutions to our ills. Very powerful. I agree.
Yeah.
It's quite comforting to know that it's not a majority. And by the way, some of the people that I see posting on TikTok about this who are saying things like, well, fine, I'm not going to support Palestine anymore. Yeah, they look like they've never even gone near a protest, I'll be honest.
No. I think I
Not
also,
even a protest for like Black Lives Matter. Some of them
yeah.
genuinely look like they have been chilling this whole time.
Yeah. And I saw something on social media, I can't remember which app, but it was basically saying the pro-Palestine movement hasn't lost anyone this week, hasn't lost a single person, because those people were never involved. They were never part of any communities that were mobilizing for change. They were not part of any protests. They probably weren't donating any funds to the suffering people in Gaza. Because anyone who could flip the switch in such a drastic fashion, and see the images that we've seen the headless children, seen entire families wiped off the social register, as in like literally an entire bloodline that has existed in that region since the time of Christ, wiped out, which blows my mind. How can anyone see that and say, fuck them, I'm voting for Kamala, I'm voting for Marmalade? That those people don't exist. Those people don't exist. So
Yeah.
another creator that was really illuminating for me was talking about morality in a really I hope we can actually find a way to clip this in. But she was talking about how morality doesn't mean anything if you aren't able to make tough choices. I know I've contradicted myself by saying that I would have voted for the Labour Party, but but making those choices that undermine your own comfort in favor of somebody else's liberation or in favor of somebody else's salvation, literally saving their lives, if you're able to put aside your material comforts temporarily or even long term in service of the greater good, that's morality. But unfortunately, for a lot of people, they were never moral. They were never moral. They only wanted to support the Palestinian people while it was comfortable to do so. And that's why you had people even at the beginning. I mean, these the vote for Kamala versus Donald Trump. That's a somewhat difficult decision. But even at the beginning, when people were saying, how much will boycotting actually serve? You know, this is really hard for me. Those people are kind of the cousins of the people that we're seeing now who are voting for Kamala with enthusiasm and saying "F the Palestinians." But yeah, it was a really interesting conversation that she was having with us about morality and how this is a moment to actually test whether you have them morals.
Yeah, I don't. I genuinely, like you said, I feel like if you have seen the videos since the beginning, or even if, surprise, surprise, you actually cared about Palestine before October the 7th as well, like many people have, um, and if you have been to even a single protest, I think even just one single protest, I don't think you'd be saying half the stuff. Like, I don't think they would be saying half the stuff. I really do think that they are just there to instigate
Yeah. And
very bad faith arguments. And I even saw something ridiculous today about like, oh, if what have Palestinians ever done for Black people? And I, by the way, was quite disheartened to see so many Palestinians replying to that by showing all of these pictures of things that they've done, because it got me thinking, like, boy, if Somalia goes through a genocide, we are so screwed if anti-blackness is going to be
oh,
the next.
I know what
I know
photo.
that we're going to use the Angela Davis. There was that Angela Davis protest in Mogadishu back in the 80s or 70s or wherever
70s when she was locked up, or was
when
it
she
the
was
60s?
locked up. Yeah, I don't know, but at the same time, it will literally just be
That
um
one photo.
that one photo doing the rounds. But
But
yeah,
also, like, it makes me question again how much these people actually knew about the Palestinian people before October 7th. And then another thing, I think, another thought that I had this week was at the start of this, a lot of Zionists were saying to people who were trying to get involved and trying to speak up for the Palestinians, they kept on saying to them, "You don't know enough about this issue to talk about it," and they were terrifying people because a lot of people didn't want to be accused of anti-Semitism because if in case they misspeak or whatever, and that put a lot of people off. And then a lot of us on the pro-Palestine side of things were telling people, "You don't need to know everything about this issue.
mhm.
You just need to know that there is a people that are currently being occupied and oppressed, and there are people that are doing the occupation and the oppressing." In hindsight now, I'm thinking maybe we needed to do a little bit more educational outreach.
I
Because
disagree to some extent. Everything was happening very quickly after October the 7th, Lavin, and people needed a crash course. It needed to be done very quickly, not to mention the fact that I think a lot of people were not also just motivated by their compassion and their connection to the Palestinian people, but also remember a lot of people quickly moved to being, pro-Palestine because of they saw how vile Israelis behave online. That guy who had the first TikTok video that changed everything, I believe, was the
oh
guy who
yeah.
was playing with the tap and turning it on and off, and then turning the lights on and off to mock the fact that fuel and electricity had been
And
shut off
water
in
was cut off.
Gaza.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, a lot of
yeah,
scientists did a lot of the work for us in radicalizing people and exposing the injustice. But another reason why I think a little bit more educational outreach was and is needed is we keep on saying now, because a lot of people are saying, oh, I'm going to switch to Congo as if it's a football team. And I think we're replying in good faith by saying, but it's all connected. You think you can switch from one cause to another and not realize that there is an underlying thread linking all of these oppressions together. But I don't think a lot of people can see that. How do we explain that without falling into, anti-Semitic tropes about, Jews controlling the world, which is not the case. But I need to make
I
that
think
clear.
people gave up on I think people have given like maybe 2% of the information on Congo.
Mm.
They start off, but I've seen some people just say, yeah, there's an Israeli billionaire who's involved
That's
in this.
yeah, and he's not causing the entire
It's not
genocide.
causing the entire thing. People are not starting from the 19th century scramble for Africa, Belgium, King Leopold. I mean, some people are saying it, but they're not really going into the fact that colonialism started the issue in Palestine and started the issue in Congo. British colonialism, I believe, in Sudan.
Exactly. British
So it's
colonialism.
just, yeah. So if you look at
Belgium and French.
why is it that all of these countries that have been messed up have all been colonized? You know what I mean? Why, how about that? And then
And
all of these
Palestine.
countries that were, yeah, no, but all of these countries that are not messed up are former colonizers. So it's just that. But yeah, no, I wanted to also quickly go through this really infuriating story, something that really, really fucked me off so badly. And yeah, another L for African American liberals is so basically a few days ago, about 10 days ago, so now it's the 18th of August. This was on the 8th of August. A Palestinian user on TikTok, Iman Abdelhadi, she tweeted, "Oh, Kamala is not ready for Chicago, but don't worry, we're ready for her." So she's talking quite clearly about protest. She is Palestinian American from Chicago. So they knew exactly what she meant by that. But someone, her name is Shantizi, she quote tweeted it and she said, "This tweet is dangerous and threatening as hell." And then other people wrote, "There's a knock at the door, it's the Secret Service." Another person said, "I'm glad I'm not the only one who was thinking it." Someone else said, "That's a direct threat." Um, and then some white person wrote, "I'm the whitest white person who ever whited, and I wouldn't publicly say something like that in such a public forum. She shouldn't be surprised if she gets a surprise visit from some folks who just want to have a chat." What an absolute disgrace. I can't believe that there are Black people in America who are calling the fucking cops on.
Literally, you're feds at this point. Like, you are the feds.
And to do this to a Muslim woman, knowing the connotations of Muslim women and Muslim people in post 9/11 America. And guess what? On August the 16th, Iman Abdul Hadi tweeted, "Just got the call from the FBI. Thanks, everyone." So she did get contacted by the FBI. And I just think people should be ashamed of themselves. Just quickly, like Sana Saeed, a journalist previously with Al Jazeera, wrote, "Don't need Trump in office for people in this country to deputize themselves as agents of state violence against already heavily securitized groups. Liberals have a very easy time doing this. It's why we say the road to fascism is paved with liberals."
Exactly. Scratch a liberal, what are you going to find?
Fascist.
Yeah, I find this so interesting because a lot of these African American liberals who have been withdrawing their support for the Palestinians because I got to put myself first, like the people who are saying that, they're saying it because you find a fascist. And I just find it interesting because a lot of these African American liberals who have been going to bat for Kamala and saying that, I have to put myself first. I have to put the mask on myself before these Palestinian children who are being genocided, are saying that because they're saying the choices between Kamala and fascism. And then the way they try to bring their candidate forward is by being fascists, by calling the feds on people who are trying to organize peaceful protest. You are the feds. You are the fascists.
Remember, though, they said democracy is on the ballot.
Democracy is on the ballot. So let's lock up some peaceful protesters before they've even started to protest.
Arab women. So remember when Kamala did the rally in Michigan, she was interrupted by protesters, and then Kamala did the "hello, I'm talking," and that became a meme. And then you had a lot of people.
Don't interrupt me. I'm speaking.
Don't interrupt me. I'm speaking. A lot of people on Twitter, both Black and white liberals, were basically not gendering the people who are protesting. What they failed to mention was the people who are protesting were all Arab Muslim women. People like to call Muslim women like us
Mm,
oppressed and quiet and mild-mannered and meek. But when we're
very demure.
protesting, they don't say our gender, they just will call us protesters.
The horde of
Yeah. And
uncivilized Arabs.
then you've got people saying things like, why don't you protest at Donald Trump rallies? And I just think Donald Trump is not the current president. He doesn't have the power right now. The genocide has taken place under the Democrats. The
And is being
person
funded
that,
by the Democrats.
yeah, facilitated and funded by the Democrats. And this is a US Democrat genocide as much as it is an Israeli genocide. And I just don't understand it. If it sounds like domestic abuse talk to some extent, it's very much like, well, you're not going to find anyone better than me. The next guy that you're with is going to be 10 times worse. Like,
Yeah.
you'll never find an abuser like me.
You'll never find someone better than me. You're
Mm.
not going anywhere.
Yeah, so it's just one big shit show. There's been a couple of other people who have been rumbled, completely rumbled. Um, some guy called It's Me Y'all on Twitter. He's just for people listening to the podcast, he is African American. I don't think he is a liberal though. Like, I just don't know what the fuck he is. But he wrote, it's a wrap for Free Palestine. You pissed the elders off and lost. And the elder in question is the stupid old fool that we were talking about. But then you look at their previous tweets. So the initial tweet, it's a wrap for Free Palestine. It almost implies that they previously supported Palestine.
Mm.
Then you look at their old tweets, and it's one of his tweets is, you thought you were slick throwing in the apartheid bullshit. There is no apartheid. There is no genocide. There's only genocidal intent with Hamas and the people of Palestine who support them, including here in the USA. So clearly was never ever like, these are just Zionists. There are Black Zionists. Let's just make that
Mm.
very clear. There's someone else who actually is or was a serving US Army officer. And he's basically quote tweeting a Muslim hijabi TikToker. And she's speaking absolutely nothing but facts. But then he quote tweets the video and says, this is what anti-blackness looks like, even though there's absolutely zero anti-blackness in the video. And
And I
then,
love how he won't respond to anyone who's asking where's the anti-blackness in that video, because
yeah,
it's just it's a literal slur.
it's just, yeah, it's the same as using anti-Semitism. But anyway, so you look at his previous tweets and it says, I support Israel in defending itself from terrorists. So, and the fact that he was a serving army officer in the United States Army just says it all. I'm fucking tired of talking about these people. They depress me. I don't even know. I don't even know what else to say, Ladan. I'm just
Yeah,
genuinely.
I don't like, so just to summarize, there were a heap of people who didn't really know much or care about the Palestinian people before and during the genocide. And it took any excuse, this in this case being their choice of presidential candidate, to throw their support behind, for them to completely throw the people that are currently being slaughtered en masse under the bus with such inhumanity. And I don't think we've lost anyone in the movement there. There are some in the pro-Zionist space that are taking advantage of this.
Oh, they're
Mezig,
loving it. They're like, oh, yeah, the people. But remember, if you can only use identity politics to further your argument, of course, you're going to love other people who do the same
yeah,
thing.
yeah. So you've got someone like Mezig. If you are on anyone on social media,
He
he's
blocked me on Twitter.
he's blocked all of us, but he's all over this issue now because it's an opportunity to delegitimize the Palestinian people, and completely ignoring the fact that there are Afro-Palestinians, that Palestinians haven't aren't known for their anti-blackness. I mean, anti-blackness is universal.
They
But
should move that conversation to Lebanon. Then we can have a conversation.
Lebanon or the Gulf,
Yeah.
um this is not a case of a country known for its anti-blackness. But I've been to Palestine, so I say this with experience. Didn't experience anything there. But yeah, I don't think it's a psyops. I think it is legitimate, but I think the people who are what do they say in Jamaica? Empty barrels make the most noise. There was nothing going on in their heads to begin with.
Yep. Yup. Put in the Wendy Williams clip. Yup.
Speaking of Jamaicans, let's look at Kamala Harris as an actual candidate now, because I mean,
they're going crazy for someone who doesn't even want to give interviews, Ladan.
because ask any of these people, what is she standing for besides not being Donald Trump? What is she actually standing for? I don't know.
She put forward some policy stuff, but at the same time, just yesterday, but what I
They're
find
late in the game.
late in the game, but also we know she's not going to achieve any of those things. It's just false promises to keep the people going. But the independent journalist Glenn Greenwald, if you go on his YouTube account, he has a show called System Update, which is really good. He gave a really good rundown of just how bad this campaign has been for Kamala. How bad it is that she's not doing interviews compared to her opponent, Trump and JD Vance, who are all over the interview circuit. Now, don't get me wrong, Donald Trump does not like Black people, but at least he fucking did the interview with the Association of Black Journalists. And I'm just thinking, he put himself in an uncomfortable situation where he knows that he looks like a twat in that situation. Kamala would never
and they really put the pressure on him. Those Black journalists did an excellent job. I mean, it was really interesting. But yeah,
but they won't. They'll treat Kamala with kid gloves. But let me just show you what Glenn was saying about the campaign.
Here's Time Magazine, which I understand is not the Time Magazine of, say, the 1950s or the 1980s. But nonetheless, it still has, I think, 20 million followers on Twitter. It has probably close to 100 million, if not more, followers across various social media platforms. It's a recognizable brand. This is the cover art for Time Magazine this week. There you see her, Kamala Harris, kind of a very iconographic photo. It kind of like has it has like these sort of Democratic Party banners with Kamala signed. It's like it's very much like the Obama Hope sign of 2008. It's on the cover of Time Magazine, though. It's not intended to be a campaign material, and the only printed text is "Her Moment" by Charlotte Adler. I mean, you couldn't. I don't think Kamala Harris's campaign publishes hagiography this explicit, this blatant. And the amazing thing about this Time Magazine article, this cover story, is that in the article it says this, quote, Kamala Harris has yet to do a single substantive interview or to explain her policy shifts. Her campaign denied a request for an interview for this story. Now, if you're Time Magazine and you want to write a profile on Kamala Harris and she tells you, I'm not answering a single question, I'm not talking to you, why would you nonetheless then go and just publish this sort of creepy hagiography about her? This is hero worship of the kind you see in the countries we associate that with. I mean, look at that picture. And it's obviously intended to glorify her, to honor her, to elevate her image. It's Her Moment by Charlotte Adler. That's Time Magazine.
Yeah, so
it is giving like Bashar al-Assad posters on the highway. Like it's a bit cultish. You know how in a lot of these Arab countries where they have dictators, they just blow up images of their leader looking great.
I'm pretty sure they'd have a lot to say about the iconography if that was, well, they've had him, and they did say things about Trump being on the cover of Time. So it's just one rule for me, another rule for you kind of thing. So yeah, I hope that we never have to talk about this topic again, just because it has been.
Do you hope that she loses?
If she loses, there's going to be the night of the long knives amongst Palestinians and Muslims.
Oh yeah, I don't
Black and white people coming for Muslims.
But do you want her to lose?
I would like for her to lose to teach her a lesson, but at the same time, before anything happens, all I want is the genocide to end.
Yeah.
They're not ending it. So yeah, it's not anti, you know, it makes no difference to Palestinians.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Just to see the smug smile wiped off their face, it would be good. But
I hope this radicalizes people. So if Kamala were to lose, and this is going back, I don't want to go back to the Black liberals, but to all liberals here, who are saying, you know, if Donald Trump comes in, we're going to see fascism. We're going to see even more repression of LGBTQ rights. We're going to see even more repression of women's rights. You know, abortion. The ban on abortion will be basically codified, and there'll be no return to Roe v. Wade. And then my question to those people who are terrified of that outcome, if that were to happen, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? Are you going to sit back and let fascism take over your country? You're not going to organize, are you?
what they're going to do is they'll have another women's march wearing pussy hats, and that's what they'll do. And it will be wash, rinse, repeat. I'll say one thing though. We know that, like we said, the road to fascism is always paved with liberals. So Kamala wins. Nothing really changes. Things get worse. And I promise you, 2028 will be the most fascist year ever. And liberals will be the only ones to blame for that.
So maybe Trump needs to win in order to actually radicalize people to mobilize against fascism as a whole.
I highly doubt it. And we're dealing with Americans here. So anyways, thank you for a lively episode. And I don't even want to.
How do we summarize this?
Not all, you know, skin folk are kinfolk, and I also genuinely don't have time for anyone, Black or otherwise, who is trivializing the genocide in Gaza and
Congo and Haiti. And they are trivializing all of these.
I saw someone say, fine, I'm going to support. They said free Congo, free Haiti, and then they said free Kenya. And I'm like, free Kenya from who?
The Kenyans are actually in Haiti. And there's a Kenyan military force in Haiti.
Some of the most fascist people in Africa. So I'm just like, that's when I realized, actually, please open up the schools, open up the schools. That is the summary.
Get passports.
No child left behind. George Bush has a lot to answer for, including the Iraq War, because clearly some children
were left behind.
Anyways, thank you. Bless you. See you for the next episode. Bye.
Ciao.
Ciao.